This is Evan Robb for DisruptED TV, and I'm joined today with Pam Moran, retired superintendent from Albemarle County Schools in Virginia. Welcome, Pam.
Oh, Evan, it's great to be here. It's a beautiful day in Virginia, and just a delight to be here with you and be able to talk about something we both are passionate about, and that is our profession of education.
Absolutely. You know, a couple things before we begin. I do want to remind our viewers that Pam has given some wonderful TED Talks. Encourage you to check those out when you have some time. And also that Pam will be having a new book released here very shortly titled Timeless Learning, How Imagination, Observation, and Zero-Based Thinking Can Change Schools. So Pam, we're talking about change, and we're talking about positive change in education and how positive change can disrupt education. And I know you have some ideas to share with us today.
Oh, Evan, I've been so privileged to work with an amazing team of educators and actually parents and even students who have a real sense of that when school is working well at its very best, that what we're doing is really unleashing the potential of every child. That's a challenge, I think, for every school in the nation to be able to figure out how do we close opportunity gaps, how do we close achievement gaps. And I quite frankly believe that that begins with being able to have educators imagine what's possible, to have kids get the kinds of experiences that give them multiple pathways to learning, and to have parents and other community parent members really join in creating a culture where people can take risks, where that is supported up, where if something doesn't go quite right, that you can get in there and redirect it, that people don't have to really check their creativity at the schoolhouse door, that they can bring it right in with them and take a look at what are the things that we can do, that we can build, design, make, create, engineer, that will allow our kids to be able to pursue their curiosities, pursue their questions, lines of inquiry, and ultimately to find interest and passions that fuel them as lifelong learners, and that we see ourselves at that point no longer educating kids to pass tests, but educating our young people for life. And for me, that's ultimate.
Yeah, they're really powerful. It has a lot to do with the culture in the building. There's a recent article on you in Forbes magazine where it's focusing in on some leadership traits, attributes that you certainly think are important. They certainly resonated with me when I read them, and I encourage everyone to check out the article. But one of the things you focus on is developing talent, but developing talent only works when it's in concert with a culture and an environment where that's encouraged to happen. You know, you and I both know that if a school or a school division is led with a culture of compliance or a culture of fear, fear to take risks, fear to be innovative, that the things that you're talking about and the things that you celebrate with kids and with teachers, they just simply won't occur. So help me understand, as a superintendent, how do you set a tone for creativity, innovation, and where people can feel comfortable to take risks with their learning?
And you know, we talk about how do you create inside a school or a classroom or even a school division or district that sense of a culture of contagious creativity. And that starts from the top, and it starts from everybody, whether it's the teacher in the classroom being defined as a leader of that kind of work, or the principal in the building. And for me, it happens through a kind of encouragement that rather than people feeling like that their world is defined in a binary way as either yes, I can, or no, I can't. And sometimes in education, I think that teachers can feel like that there's more no, you can'ts than there are yes, you cans. And so I've really tried to really go after figuring out that if somebody has a bright idea, if they have something that they want to try, that they believe is going to get more kids to the learning table, how do we really build a culture of yes so that people hear, yeah, let's take a look at that. Let's figure out how to do that. And I tend to follow a model. I laughingly call it the Yelp model, because it starts with saying yes, but it also then shifts to saying that kind of a culture is not one person. A culture represents lots of people working on things together with a real sense of vision and mission and goal. And so, you know, if somebody has a good idea, you say, how do you get other people to the table? You know, who else might be interested in this? And then you got to figure out how you're going to leverage resources, because whether you're a building principal, a teacher, or a superintendent, oftentimes what you've got to be able to do is to figure out, how do you do it yourself? There's not always a grant. There's not always, money that's just available to do that kind of work. So how do you leverage those resources to support a team that has a bright idea? And then how do you let them prototype it so that rather than having something that becomes a massive shift in practice or projects that kids are doing or change in space, whatever it is, how do you start small? And then that allows people to make mistakes at a more granular level that's smaller in scope, and then to figure out, what do we need to do to make this keep going in the right direction.
And that's really exciting, because the whole idea of you're having a wonderful idea, a brilliant idea, but it could be the principal's role, it could be the superintendent's role, to help someone do it in a way that they're more likely to find success.
Yeah.
The other thing that really resonates with me as we're talking right now, I'm sure you're familiar with Larry Lazard, Effective Schools and Effective Schools Correlates, and there's different generations of the correlates, but originally it was the principal as the instructional leader of the building. But as he redefined his correlates, he started communicating that the principal would be a leader amongst leaders. And what I'm hearing from you is having this environment where people are encouraged to be leaders within the building and work together collaboratively in an environment where it's okay to take a risk. That's exciting.
Yeah. And I just a minute ago saw a tweet pop up in my tweet stream. We have a wonderful young educator who was an administrative intern for us that's relocating to Sioux Falls out in the Dakotas. And he is one of those people that is so well connected beyond just our school division. But I said to him, hey, have you thought about a project that maybe your kids can do with the kids back here? And I started to think about, this isn't my job anymore. And then I thought, you know what? It's not about my job. It's about my profession and my life of trying to just help people find those connections that allow them to do things that otherwise they'd not be able to do. So I just tweeted that back out a few minutes ago to him.
For you, it's really exciting because, with technology and the access to technology within schools, the ability for kids and educators to connect all over the world is pretty amazing. There's no doubt about it.
It's amazing. And the thing that I've really found is that, if I could boil down whether it's the themes of our book or whether it's the themes of my life as an educator or the work that I've really tried to leverage up with folks around me, is that when our kids discover, when they believe that their voice matters,
mm-hmm.
and then they find out that they actually are people who can have a sense of agency in their own learning, that they can have control over their learning, they have choices that they can make, and it starts to belong to them. That shift of the power from the teacher to the kids is a creative process. And then when kids do that, the next thing that all of a sudden they discover is, you know what? We can influence others. We can influence our class. We can influence our school, our community, and even the world. And it's pretty amazing to see, and, wonderful examples. I actually have a group of kids that this past year lobbied me to get a mental health initiative into the school budget, which did, and it went all the way through. They met with some legislators in Virginia, ended up in the General Assembly talking to one of the committees, ended up with a bill to support up mental health services that passed through, that's going to put mental health focus into all the schools in Virginia this next year. And I talked to them recently. They're all going to college. And I said, so what's next, guys? And they said, oh, we're not going to stop. This is work that we're passionate about. We're going to continue to support it up because all kids in this country really deserve to have access to mental health support, particularly in high schools.
Yeah, really exciting. And that's actually good. Now, we have to bring our conversation to a close. And great ideas. We could probably talk all evening long. But I really think that example of kids feeling empowered to apply the skills that they have to real world problem solving is wonderful. It's a wonderful thing to be able to bring.
Evan, it's been a delight to be with you. And you're right. The stories could go on forever. I know we need to close. Thank you for allowing me to share a little bit. And I'd love to come back sometime or to have further conversations. So I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely, Pam. And Pam, I want to remind our viewing audience that your book will be out shortly in the beginning of August. And it's found all over Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com. But I like Amazon because you can access a sample of the book, when you check out a book on Amazon, which is particularly nice. To our viewing audience, you can follow Pam Moran on Twitter at Pam Moran. That's not a hard Twitter handle at all. And I encourage you to do that also. So as we bring to a close this episode of DisruptED TV, I'd like to remind our viewing audience that if you want to bring creativity and innovation into your life, at times you may need to disrupt your routine. This is Evan Robb. See you next time.